Dems holding out who are opposed to marriage equality. Joining me now is Richard Socarides, a former advisor to President Bill Clinton, Democratic strategist, and a gay rights activist. Richard, it's good to have you here. You know, we have been hearing a lot about which Democratic senators are left to come out for marriage equality. Interesting, though, we have former Republican presidential candidate Rick Santorum warning his party against supporting marriage equality, telling the Des Moines Register, quote, "The Republican Party is not going to change on this issue. In my opinion, it would be suicidal if it did." What are your comments about it would be suicidal if it did when we have senators, you know, like Rob Portman, who has come out now in support of marriage equality, and he still has a political future ahead of him?
Yeah, well, Rick Santorum doesn't have a very good track record of predicting the outcomes of things in Republican politics. But I mean, I think it's clear the future is that more and more senators, more and more Americans are coming out for marriage equality. And I thought you saw in Senator Portman just the beginning of what is a lot of support from moderate and even conservative Americans who realize that this is not an issue about religion, this is an issue about civil marriage. I thought people thought there was a lot of courage in the Portman family, both father and son. I was very touched by that story.
You know, in that instance, you know, politics was very personal, and we booked you today because you wrote this incredible post on The New Yorker called "Coming Out to My Father," and it's about an interview that you did with a blog in which you described what it took to tell your dad that you were gay. Now, just so everybody knows, your dad was the prominent Dr. Charles Socarides, a psychiatrist who was one of the founders of gay conversion therapy, and I just want to show everybody part of that interview.
He sent me a letter, and he sent me a beautiful letter, handwritten, 4 pages, in which he basically said, "I'm sorry I behaved so badly. I'm sorry I got angry. You're the most important person to me in my life, and I love you, and the only thing that's important to me is your happiness." It was not always that easy going forward, because he did not change what he was saying publicly about the treatment and cure of homosexuality.
So it didn't change what he believed in terms of science and being able to change human nature, but he was able to support you.
Yeah.
How did that change the relationship that you had with your father, knowing that originally he wanted to fix you, but then he felt that you didn't need to be fixed?
Yeah, well, it was a very difficult relationship, and as I say in that video, I don't think he ever really wanted to fix me. I think he felt that people should be entitled to lead their lives as they see fit, although that is not what he said publicly, you know, and he did a lot of harm and a lot of damage to people who thought that they might be able to change their sexual orientation. But I did this video with an amazing site called I'm From Driftwood, which seeks to promote understanding in a very nonpartisan way by sharing gay stories. And I think that a lot of the advances we've had recently, the advances in anti-discrimination issues, have been because more and more people are willing to be open and honest about their sexual orientation. And, you know, people know that I'm gay, right? I mean, I write about it. I've worked on this issue for a long time. But they haven't really known this story, and I hope that telling the story in an open and honest way would let people know that even under the most difficult circumstances, it can be a profoundly liberating and healing experience.
I wanted to play the fact that, you know, these dad and son relationships, like the Portmans, we've got the Salmons, Republican Congressman Salmon on the other side, who does have a gay son who has talked about this but will not change his views on marriage equality. And his son, Matt, has made or gave an interview recently, and he talked about his dad and why he feels he's not a bigot. Take a look.
It was probably while I was in college, when I was at ASU, and I had just decided that I was no longer going to do reparative therapy, and it was hard for him. We still had a loving relationship, but it was difficult for him to accept. And
so difficult for him to accept. His father supported his agreement to do that interview. But there's a young man who grew up Mormon, has gone through reparative therapy, has left reparative therapy, has said that he wants to have his own family, is okay. He said in that interview it's okay if his parents or his dad doesn't come to support his wedding. Do you see any of yourself in a son like that who wants to be supportive of their father, but knows that there is a great obstacle in the way if the dad won't give his full blessing?
Listen, I think nothing is more complicated than the relationship we have with our parents, and especially, our fathers, especially as gay sons of fathers who may not support their sexual orientation. I empathize with Mr. Salmon. I felt a lot of identification with the Portman family and the choices they made, which I thought, as I said, was a very beautiful story, which showed a lot of courage. But these are very complicated relationships, and I think we see in the story of the Salmon family a son who wants to be true to his affection for his father, despite his views, but also who's struggling with the fact that his father doesn't really support, the essence of who he is as a person. So it's very complicated, and I think we have to have empathy and sympathy for the choices that everybody makes.
Compassion for the family dynamic.
Compassion,
Former Clinton
exactly.
advisor and LGBT activist Richard Socarides. Thanks for being here, Richard.
Thanks,
appreciate
Thomas.
it. And your story as well. So former president, your friend Bill Clinton, listen to this, Richard. He once pledged to build a bridge to the 21st century. Well, he finally crossed that bridge, and he got some help